Welcome to Rges Algebra 2. This is lesson 12A, and we're talking about your lesson 3.3, simplifying rational expressions, or a rational expression. Okay, so we've got several options. I'm going to look at problems 2, 8, 14, 17, and 20. We talked about this some in class, and the first thing you want to do is identify what approach I need to take. So number 2 is the simplest approach of all, or the simplest type of problem of all, a squared b c cubed all over 2abc. And this would be a simple cancellation. 2 goes into 8 4 times in the numerator. I have more a's in the numerator by one more. I have the b's cancel out directly. I have more c's in the numerator by 2 more, so that would be c squared. And that would be the answer. And the reason I'm careful to distinguish, because maybe sometimes I would have more in the denominator, like c to the 4th, and I would want to make sure I had my answer there in the denominator. But in this case, it all worked out the same. So a monomial over a monomial simply cancel. Let's look at number 8. A cubed plus a squared plus a over an a squared. So the way we're going to look at this when we have a monomial in the denominator is we're going to break it up into 3 terms. A cubed over a squared plus the second term, a squared over a squared, plus the third term, a over a squared, and then I'm going to simplify each. A cubed over a squared, that would leave me with 1a in the numerator. A squared over a squared is the same as 1, and canceling out the a from the numerator into the denominator, in my third term, I would get 1 over a. And so this simplifies to that. Looking at a problem like number 14, so those are 2 kinds of problems again, a monomial over a monomial, and then a polynomial over a monomial. Now, what happens if I have, for instance, in 14, I have x squared minus 6x plus 5 all over x minus 1. Because this looks like a pretty straightforward factoring trinomial, I would give that a try first. Okay? So I'm thinking 2 numbers that multiply together to give me 5, and their sum is negative 6, so I would have x minus 1 times x minus 5. If I simplified that by factoring it, and the denominator would stay the same, and now, because that's all there is in the denominator, I would view that as a grouping in parentheses, and then I would factor out those, and my final answer would be x minus 5. Now another type of problem we could have, so that was a trinomial divided by a binomial, which looked like it would factor. Now I could also have a trinomial divided by a binomial, and it doesn't look like it's going to factor for me by binomials. So let's look at number 17. 17 says x cubed minus 2xy. Oops, I can't read it. Hang on. Okay, this one's over x minus y. Now, this is a trinomial, but it doesn't look like it's going to simplify very easily into 2 binomials multiplied by each other. So I would, and certainly I can't do synthetic because it doesn't have the right pattern down below. So I would simply do a long division. Now remember, let's remind ourselves of a couple things with long division. First off, we have to put placeholders. So I would have x cubed plus 0x squared y plus, hang on one second here. Okay, so this is kind of interesting because I'm not getting to this term yet, okay? So I would typically have then marching this one down and the x down and the y1, I'd have 0xy squared minus y cubed, and then I have this leftover term, minus 2xy. So that's how you deal with that, which is not something I've actually shown you before. Okay, so what we would do, though, is we're going to divide by x minus y. Let's see how this works out. I would multiply by x squared, x cubed, minus x squared y. We're going to subtract, so this is going to become a plus x squared y. Bring down the next term. Divide again by the x, and you're going to get plus, let's see, we're dividing this right here by x, and we're going to get xy. Multiply back, and we're going to get x squared y minus xy squared. Hopefully you remember this process. If not, this is a good review. Subtracting out, and of course we're subtracting this way. We were that way up here also. I was just doing it in my head. And so the first terms cancel out. A minus negative is a plus. And so when we're adding those, we're going to get 0 minus a negative, or 0 plus xy squared. Okay, we're going to bring down the next term. We're going to look at what's our multiplier by x to get that, and we're going to all the way down there. Okay, make sure we're looking at it right. And so we need a y squared term. We're going to multiply back, and we're going to get, running out of room here, xy squared minus y cubed. We're subtracting. The first term cancels. Terms cancel out. We get negative y cubed minus a negative, or plus y cubed. That also cancels out, and we have this as our last term, which is going to be our remainder. Okay, so pull that up to the top as your fraction, minus 2 xy all over the divisor, x minus y. So your final answer is x squared plus xy plus y squared minus, wait one second. Okay, I had to do this on the next page because I really did run out of room, and I was carrying that down a little bit carelessly there. Make sure when you bring down this next term, okay, go ahead and follow through. I wasn't, even though it was my last term here, I wasn't finished because I had to take into account the second part. So you're doing it one more time, and then this becomes your remainder right here. Okay, and so this is the answer up here. So, last term being over the dividend, or the divisor. I'm sorry, the divisor. Okay, let's go back now and figure out that last problem I wanted to do, which was number 20. Let me go to the next page just to make sure I don't run out of room again. All right, so now what we have is we have x cubed plus 5x squared plus 3x minus 6, and my divisor is x plus 2. Okay, now this, because I just have a number here, is going to be a good option for synthetic division. Remember, always the opposite sign. These are in order, descending order, so I'll just pull off my numerical coefficients. 1, 5, 3, negative 6. Pull down, multiply back, add, multiply back, negative 2 times 3 is negative 6, add, 3 minus 6 is negative 3, multiply back, negative times negative is positive, and add. This will be my remainder, and now I started with a cube term, so this is going to be x squared plus 3x minus 3, and that's the end of that. Okay. So this is a good review for synthetic division, for long division, and of course learning your monomial division, which is the easiest of all, and there were just a few factoring in there to provide additional practice, and really just so that you would recognize that's a tool you can use when it's applicable. Okay.